get started. So thanks everybody for joining. My name is Thomas Scott and I'm a business advisor here at CallSource. I'm also joined by my colleague Cassie Sayaprina.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining.
And just so everybody's aware, this webinar will be recorded and we'll have it available to you after the broadcast. As a reminder, we would like this to be an interactive webinar, so please make sure to submit your questions or raise your hand on the dashboard if you'd like to participate in or ask questions during the Q&A session after the presentation. If you haven't done so already, please remember to select the telephone option under the audio section of your dashboard and call into today's meeting, please. It'll provide a phone number and audio pin access code that's going to be unique to everybody. At the end of the presentation, again, please participate and feel free to ask questions. And again, we're going to have the recording available to you at the end of the day today. So today we're going to be looking into creating a performance-based culture. What we're going to review today is going to be what a performance-based culture actually is, why it's important to implement one as soon as possible, and lastly, how you can get started in making these changes within your business. So what is a performance-based culture or a consultative sales culture? Well, really what that means is that the call handlers understand that their role is to set appointments for qualified prospects. This means it's making an effort to understand that what the caller's needs are, building value, and then asking for the appointment ultimately at the end. Your staff should know that they're there to be appointment makers and not just order takers. And really only you as the business leader needs to decide, can decide what actions need to be taken to implement these cultural changes. I mean, you have an insight into your team and you would understand better than anyone how to motivate them. A performance-based culture is a sustainable growth mentality that's going to allow your business to excel where others are actually failing. It allows the business to move in one positive direction and allows you to ultimately achieve your goals. So conducting a careful analysis of what will be needed to reach your goals is generally a good idea. So from here you can actually define certain characteristics that are found within most successful performance-based cultures. Here are some basic questions to ask yourself to shine some light on your current culture. So are my team members invested in the success of the business? Are my team members motivated to stretch and achieve new levels of success? Do my call handlers know their role in the sales cycle is to set appointments? Can my team members correctly answer what their goals are? Can my team members correctly answer what the company goals are? Lastly, if a team member falls short of their goals, are there specific steps that will be taken? So if no is often the answer to these questions, meeting your goals may require a shift in the culture. The no's may be an indication that the existing culture does not focus on these actual items. So just keep in mind that cultural shifts do not need to be frightening or painful for your team, nor does it require you to shed what makes your business a fun and rewarding place to work. But understanding the nature of the change, setting clear goals and expectations, and communicating effectively with your team will create a smooth process. Ultimately, this is for the betterment of your business, and the change should happen as soon as possible. So why is creating a sales culture and a culture of accountability so important? Well, first and foremost, that it has actually helped many CallSource clients reach their performance goals. Every team member will also understand their role and how it impacts the business directly. So if your team doesn't know what they should be doing, how can they actually be expected to succeed at this time? So setting specific goals provides clarity. Team members will know exactly what constitutes success. Levels of ambiguity, can actually create a conflict of understanding, and you as the business leader are responsible to ensure expectations are actually understood. Team participation and agreement is actually an essential component as well. If your efforts are interpreted as merely a new directive or a polite suggestion, then team members will perform only as good as they need to, and only good enough to satisfy their roles. Emphasizing the importance of this cultural shift will give inspiration to your team and will help to remove, that apathetic attitude of just getting by, just having to do what they need to do. You want your team to excel and make an impact, so make sure to listen to their feedback and opinions, and you might actually learn something valuable yourself. Also, this level of transparency allows them to buy into the new changes and gives them understanding of the importance of implementing these changes. So actually now I'm going to turn it over to Cassie to provide us with a real-world example of kind of how, why applying the sustainable mentality, how it's actually helped the CallSource client.
Thank you, Thomas. Yes, so as we were discussing and Thomas just said, it is obviously very important to generate a performance-based culture in your office or business. And CallSource is a tool that can help you measure your success and identify areas of improvement. So for a real-world example, I have a client that was consistently missing their sales goals, and they were also always falling short on their conversion rates. They couldn't understand why because their call handlers had been there for years. So I asked them what their culture was like and if their call handlers knew that it was their #1 priority to set appointments, not just answer the client's questions. So I asked them to mention this in their next team meeting and see what response they got from their CSRs. And to their surprise, all except one employee did not see appointment setting as their #1 priority when they answered the phone. Although they knew this was a part of their job, they were not in the mindset that they needed to set appointments. They figured as long as they were cheerful, knowledgeable, and answered the questions that the callers posed, they had done their job. But the one person who did have a sales mentality of doing their job the very best to set every single appointment and understood this was consistently at the top of our telephone performance analysis and call processing reports. So I advise them to try and instill a change in mentality just by implementing an incentive plan with their call handlers. Maybe give them a small cash prize or gift card for achieving goals and see what results they could get. Well, this client took their conversion rate from 60% to 65% in just 1 month. They continue to steadily climb month over month, and they're currently exceeding their business goals, all because of better communication and a little bit of incentive to help their call handlers stay in that performance-based culture mentality. So little real-world example for you all, and back to you, Thomas.
Thanks a lot, Cassie. So keep in mind, change must be designed with targeted goals in mind, crafted for your team and implemented with care. So if you set goals that are unrealistic, then your team will lose motivation because they may find them impossible to achieve. Ensure they're part of the discussion when developing new goals. Make sure to explain to them how you arrived at your revenue goals and where you came up with the need to set up a minimum number of appointments and a conversion rate. These discussions are going to help illustrate the employee's role in achieving these important goals, and it's also going to help them buy into them. So the greater your team understands, the greater the likelihood of success in achieving these goals. Now, be prepared for some anxiety. I mean, no matter how well crafted your business plan is or how well you've, explained it, there may still be some reluctance or apprehension within the team. Don't panic. Work through the reluctance or ambivalence by clear communication in an honest effort to gain their trust. You need to keep in mind that in order for these changes to remain permanent, you have to remain consistent. So progress must be measured by an objective standard on a regular basis. Subjective standards can again risk ambiguity. So if you and your team are measuring the same output, yet using different standards, this can lead to frustration and distrust between you and your team. Infrequent measurement feedback also allows a team member to believe that the goals are unimportant. So if you set a goal for your team, but only review it, let's say like at the end of the year, how can you be sure that they're actually going to meet those goals? How are you going to know that they're headed in the right direction? So feedback is essential to instill a cultural change. So this is your opportunity to instruct your team members how they can alter their performance to progress beyond their current state. What could potentially be holding them back? What adjustments need to be made? Supportive feedback is actually going to be welcomed by the individual. It creates a mutual trust, and again, it allows them to buy into the changes. Now, keep in mind, a culture of accountability is not designed for the sole purpose of punishing poor performers. I mean, strong performers are going to benefit as well because their efforts are going to shine through and they're going to be recognized. Each team member is going to understand his or her role and how it impacts the success of the organization. Standards and goals will be defined, and each person will work to achieve those goals. Those falling short, they're going to accept the need for additional coaching and training, and they're actually going to make an effort to learn. So how can you actually get started in implementing a performance-based culture? Well, first and foremost, CallSource is essential to your success in this regard to be used as a measuring tool to help establish and maintain your standards. Our reports are used to track call handler performance and conversion rates, and we can also help you establish your goals based on industry standards. If you're unfamiliar with our reports, please reach out to your business advisor or CallSource rep just to set up a reporting walkthrough and show you where you can actually track that information. With that data, you can clearly identify if there's additional coaching and training required by your staff. If time is a potential operational constraint for you within the office, we can also provide you info on our call coaching product, which will allow us to train your call handlers in a one-on-one or group coaching session. All right. So to establish goals and maintain consistency, you need to meet regularly with your team in order to actually review their current standings and to develop a level of accountability. This allows the team, to buy into their new goals and shows you that, that they're there to assist, that you're there to assist with their improvement. Communicating with your team effectively in these meetings is also very important. We don't want to blame or shame low-level performers. You don't want to allow them the opportunity, you want to allow them the opportunity for additional coaching and training. This allows you to highlight high-level performers as well that may be able to assist people who are potentially struggling with the changes. Group meetings allow you time to go over important company information. You can go over sales numbers and strategies with your team, go over new procedures and highlight employee performance, but make sure to remember to praise publicly and provide constructive feedback privately. Individual sessions should be used to provide constructive feedback on how the team member can actually improve their conversion rates, call consistency, and their overall behavior. Now, we'll touch more on this particular topic in a later webinar, but I just wanted to kind of briefly go over that. Now, another useful strategy you can use to implement a performance-based culture is actually utilizing incentive plans to help motivate your team. So, incentive plans should help, should be used to motivate your team and help them appreciate that they actually have control over the amount of calls that they've booked into an appointment. It's important to make sure that the incentive plans reflects the need of your business. Also, a good incentive plan should be fun, exciting, rewarding. Strong incentive plans will keep your team engaged and again, will help to motivate them. The incentive plan should provide an opportunity to gain something such as like higher pay, cash bonuses, or other perks. Like catered lunches and gift cards are also good things to use. So think about what would actually motivate you and what would excite your team. Again, you know your team better than anybody else. You know what's going to help motivate them. You'll know if your CSRs are successful because they'll become excited and they'll start to hit their goals that you actually set in place with the incentive programs. The approach, again, should take into account your specific needs, but you should also be prepared to experiment with your incentive plans. You may not get it perfect the first time, but feel free to adapt and keep going. So here's a couple examples for like individual incentive plans that you can use. You can pay $200, like a $200 monthly bonus if a CSR has a TPA score of maybe like 85 or higher and a specified number of appointments set. A CSR can receive a half day off for maybe a conversion rate of 70% and maybe 5 missed opportunities for the month. Or for every appointment made, you can give your CSR a certain bonus, maybe like $5 for every appointment set. And while individual incentive plans can help increase the productivity of an individual, group incentive plans actually allows your office to work together and can actually help boost your team's morale. So some examples of team incentive plans can include, maybe a quarterly team lunch if the office's conversion rate is at 70% or higher, or maybe you can assign an overall improvement goal and, have a team bowling party or something if the improvement has actually been met. Again, these are just some basic ideas that you can use to help motivate your team, but ultimately you know your team best and you're going to know what's motivating or what's going to motivate them. So feel free to be creative with this and come up with your own, your own ideas for incentive plans. So this is actually going to, conclude my presentation on creating a performance-based culture. Please keep an eye out for emails on our next webinar, which is actually going to be preparing for a peak season. At this time, I'm going to open up the floor to any questions you may have. Please raise your hand or type your question into the question box. Just give it a second. Okay, so first question that actually came in is how can we review our employees, conversion rates and stats, etc. That's what our reporting is utilized for. What I would actually recommend is reaching out to your business advisor or CallSource representative so they can walk you through where you can find that information in our reports. There's a couple different places, and those are going to be the best people to help assist with that. Any other questions? Okay.
Thomas, I have a question.
Sure.
That
Go
might
ahead,
be
Cassie.
useful. If a particular business isn't sure what their baseline is or how they're comparing to their peers to see if they may need a more performance-based culture, where would you recommend they would get that comparative information?
The best place to get that comparative information is actually going to be in the owner summary reports. We have an industry comparison page. The owner summary reports are actually sent out again, on a monthly basis. And if you want to go over that information, again, I would suggest reaching out to your business advisor or CallSource rep, because that's a great way to set particular goals based on your peers.
Thanks.
All right, guys, I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'm going to end the webinar at this time. The recording is going to be available to you shortly. Thanks again for your time, and have a great day.